The food service, hospitality, and retail industries are evolving in ways you've never heard of until now. Hosted by global industry technovator Rob Grimes and powered by the IFBTA, Tech Bites is your go-to podcast, putting technology innovation and trends on the menu.
Well, here we are at FS Tech again and on the floor, and it's a great pleasure to have another conversation with Chris Demery, who's the Chief Technology Officer at Blaze Pizza. So welcome to Tech Bites.
Thank you very much. Welcome to be here.
So before we got started, I was talking to you about, and you didn't remember it, but I actually sort of remember way back when we met, and it was a long time ago, and it was at Domino's Pizza. So is this sort of like because I know you've done some things in between too, right? So is this sort of like a Back to the Future thing that, you're in the pizza and you come back around?
No, I look at restaurants. I love the restaurant industry. It just happened that I joined Blaze Pizza 4.5 years ago because a friend of mine said, hey, I really need some help in reinvigorating our technology stack. And it happened to be a pizza company. And so, is this my last thing? I don't know. So probably won't go to another pizza company, but who knows?
Well, I always have. So let's talk about your background. So
Sure.
Did you actually start at Domino's? Because when I met you, you got an award, actually, I believe, at FS Tech. And it was an award we gave, unfortunately or fortunately, to the 3 pizza companies for innovation.
Yep.
And so was that where you actually started?
I started in the military, so going even further back. But I started with NCR.
You ate a lot of pizzas.
Yeah.
You're an NCR guy?
I was with NCR for 5 years. And I was, they needed some help on their Domino's pizza program because they were having problems with program management. My background in the military, where I ended up, was doing very large program management, like submarines, tanks, that size of program.
Right. Well, it's a natural thing for IT people. They end up being the chief, project person too, right?
And so I went into NCR once I got out of the military, and I was working for Domino's, and Domino's said, we would really like you to join our team.
Were you in Dayton, Ohio?
No, I was in Atlanta, Georgia, actually retail. So I was working for NCR Retail out of Atlanta.
Well, that could be a whole conversation, by the way, on its own. I've got a lot. So, I don't know what you know about my history, but I started with Marriott in restaurants.
Yep.
And I was the guy at 25 years old who made a decision that involved NCR and travel plazas.
Yep.
And things there. So I go like way back to Dayton and sugar camps and all the other stuff that they did. So
I visited Dayton frequently, but mostly I was in Atlanta and traveling around the country and the world doing software development.
You ever go to Owiso factory?
I went to, I was in Japan, Scotland, Germany, Italy.
Wow. And you were in general retail.
I was in, general retail for NCR.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I didn't know that. Okay.
That was before Domino's.
Okay. So we do the Domino's piece,
Yeah.
and you were really driving the innovation there. What kind of innovation took place while you were there?
So what they wanted a solution that would solve their problem of taking phone orders. And they wanted there were too many errors taking place, taking orders over the phone. Keep in mind, this is before the internet was really, really big from an e-commerce perspective. There weren't a lot of e-commerce platforms that were general commercial off the shelf.
Right.
So they wanted to reinvent their point of sale solution and move from 7 or 8 different point of sale solutions that their franchisees had
to one.
And so we started
globally.
It started out as domestically, and as we started building out the solution, we said, we can internationalize this.
And you came up with your own solution, right?
Yeah, it was called Domino's Pulse.
I remember that.
So Domino's bought the perpetual data rights to a solution called Breakaway Vision.
I think I remember
That's
that
right.
too.
And the first thing we did is we took we selected it based on architecture. So I guided the selection of that point of sale solution. Then they hired me to reinvent it to fit the Domino's model. And then we internationalized it and made it available in South America, Europe, around the world.
And then, in between Domino's and your current position, I think you went in the hamburger business.
I went into I like to call it the fine dining, Fleming's Steakhouse. So it was Outback, Carrabba's,
right.
Bonefish, and Fleming's.
Oh, so it wasn't
I was there
hamburger.
for 7 years.
Yeah.
Then I went and I became an operator there. So
Really?
I have ops background. So I became the founder of Outback and Carrabba's Express. So I opened 7 of those locations, which were Outback or to-go only locations. So it was either pickup or delivery, smaller footprint, entire build out. So I had to learn all of the things about development, all the things about site selection, all the things about
So what happened with
managing. They then said, we want you to revolutionize off premises for Outback and Carrabba's.
Right. And I actually, that was the second time I met you.
Probably,
because
yeah.
I remember where your office was.
I was in Tampa. Yeah.
Right. I was in Tampa and I was doing something with the team there with, he went to work for Dunkin' Donuts. Not Dunkin', for Subway.
Donna Hurley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
He used
And
to be
your
my
office
boss.
was right down the hall
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And
So I worked for Donna for a couple of years, and then I got moved into a group vice president of off-premises. So I reinvigorated the off-premises activities for Outback and Carrabba's and Bonefish.
and look at where off premises has gone today, right?
Yeah.
Whole
And-
conferences in it.
Yeah. And I believe at one of their calls, because they're public, they said that's what saved them during the pandemic. Is their off-premises
Absolutely.
business. Yeah.
Yeah, well, who knew, right? That's
Correct.
sort of being in the right place at the right time, that was there. But then, so if I got my timing right here, so then right after the pandemic, you end up going to Blaze.
So
Right.
I left
that's-
Bloomin' Brands. I went to CKE, which is
there's
a
the
hamburger.
burgers. There's the burgers. Okay, I knew
30
there was burgers somehow in this whole thing.
3,600 locations. It was an interesting journey. I was targeted to be CTO, CIO for CKE, and the brand ownership decided to insert a CIO in above me, and I said, "Okay, I'm not gonna do this." PF Chang's contacted me and said, "Hey, would you like to come and do our off premises, build out our small footprint PF Chang's to go?" And I'm like, "Sure." So I moved
You
to
like
Phoenix.
projects.
Yeah,
I know you're a project,
I'm a project
I get
solver.
that, right?
I'm a
But
big
you're
programmer.
enjoying that, right?
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, it must be fun to really have your hand in operations and help to build concepts.
Yes.
And by the way, so I guess we could say you're like a IT guy who's done good, right? Because in the past there was like never any respect for the IT guys, right? Now I see a few that are CEOs, presidents, and you've had that, Toto. I didn't know that.
Yeah. The interesting part, I think my advantage was I had to learn operations in detail at Domino's in order to make IT work there. And I leveraged that at a couple other activities. And I can speak operator speak, and a lot of IT people can't. I can speak IT speak, and I can speak operator speak, and I can speak supply chain speak, and I can speak development speak. So because I've had that opportunity, I can, it's not rocket science, but you have to look at your audience and talk to your audience in the words they like. And that's
Absolutely.
what's enabled me today.
Well, you have to be able to talk the language, and also, so many people are choosing technologies and doing things in tech where they don't even bring the operators in, or they form committees of people who
Correct.
have been so
And that's the
far out of
worst possible.
operations, right?
That's
That it's like, if you're going to choose something that's going to be why not have a cashier sitting in the room? It's like,
That's right.
it's sort of obvious. I don't know. So, all right. So you've seen a lot of different things, and now I'm realizing, of course, I had to figure it out here on the air, that how many touch points we actually have in there, because it occurred to me that even CKC, Mike, I did the international part of CKC,
Yeah.
did the outsourcing of their call center actually a long time ago.
For CKE, okay.
Oh yeah, I wrote that RFP,
Yeah.
and a long time ago. So, but I'm just realizing how many touch points we actually have, yet we haven't shared pizza together. So I don't know, what that's about.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've seen a lot of different things, and you also very uniquely, I might say, because we are sitting in a room full of tech people, there aren't exactly a lot of tech people here that have worked all different sides of it, coming from the background that you're at.
Probably, yeah.
I mean,
say that
when I think about how people move around. Now, I have seen a lot of tech people decide to be in the restaurant business recently, and some of them start up companies here, and I always ask them, like, why did you decide to do that, right? What their inspiration was. So, is there some sort of central theme that you see going on in the industry? Do not say AI. You can choose anything but AI, because we're not drinking to it. So, Is there some sort of central theme or some vision or something that you see going forward right now that you believe is going to be the theme, the next step?
I don't really think I see a theme for the next step. I got asked a question yesterday on a panel, like, what's the next restaurant technology innovation?
What was your
and
answer?
I said,
That shows I didn't attend.
so I said the bad word that you said I can't say. So that's what I said, because I said there is no new technology solution in a restaurant.
Okay.
It's every time I've changed a brand, I feel like I've gone back 5 years or 7 years. My gold standard is the technology at Domino's, because it's guest centric, it's predictability, consistency. So I think what restaurants should focus on is the concept of the guest experience, and that's not rocket science.
Right.
But there's so many people.
But there's a lot of things in AI that can help you to predict the guest experience or know the guest better.
Correct.
Because of the things you can find
I
out
thought we couldn't
behind the
say
scenes.
AI.
No, you can, but it's the use of AI. It's a
Yes.
separate standalone subject. That's where I'm getting tired.
Yeah.
But if we talk about all the things that people just don't try that are obvious, and then the second they do, they're like, why didn't I try that before?
Right.
Like querying something, right? Or trying to know your customer. It's not great for everything, but it does it. I mean, you're not even here right now. You're just a AI bot.
That's right. I'm an AI bot talking to an AI bot.
Okay.
And so my question for the AI people is, when an AI bot is talking to an AI bot, which one is learning faster? Because neither one of them is going to be right in the end, because humans are what make AI work. That's my theory.
So I think it's an interesting conversation, because people always say you can't take the hospitality out. You need the empathy. You need the human side. But in reality, when you think, okay, you have just said a few minutes ago that you speak the language of operations, that you learned it, you've been an operator, you do those things.
Right.
So what seems to be missing today is that we have certain terms, or the way we look at things, like what's a food cost? What's a labor cost? What are the things that, get in labor when you have, split hours and you have different jobs, and how do you do it? That is the differentiation that our industry needs to get in, because you can't just have the tool go scrape the stuff that's out there and do it. And then everybody's got their own culture.
Right.
Blaze has its own culture, right? So how do you infuse that culture into the customer facing, the employee facing, and then how you operate?
I think that's going to be the problem with AI solutions, where I think AI can benefit restaurants. And I mentioned this to our partner, QPOS, right? Because they asked me, they invested in an AI company. They said, what would you want? Because I'm on their advisory board. And I said, if you just said green fields, I can have whatever I want. What I want is, I want an AI system within the restaurant that tells my GM or my AM when something's going sideways. So we call it situational awareness. Because today's people in the restaurants, they're heads down. They're in our restaurants, they're making pizzas, they're pulling them out of the oven, they're dealing with guests, they're cleaning tables, whatever it happens to be. Everybody is thoroughly engaged in trying to make money. But they're younger and younger. They don't have the experience of a 20-year-old manager. So to me, the biggest breakthrough from an AI perspective would be very quickly bring the data together that tells that GM in a headset, AI whisper, whatever you want to call it, right? Whisper in their ear, something's going sideways. You need to look at this right now. From the perspective of, let's just say I forecasted sales, I'm going to do 100 pizzas an hour for the next 4 hours. All of a sudden, I get a huge rush. You may not know it until it's too late that your speed of service is going down.
Right.
But AI could tell me you're selling more
because it's doing an observation that's in there, and then helps you to correct it. So, but you do have to give it sort of those rules and knowledge. So
that's right.
So we've both maybe been around a while, and I would tell people, this isn't anything new. There was something called rules-based systems in the past.
No, you're right. It's
and
not
you
new.
would set the rules,
That's
right? And I remember even Burger King, when they were using like a slide ruler to figure out the demand for the people coming in, right? And then they'd make the burgers, and put them in. So we're really talking about rules-based system, but we have to get that knowledge and we have to get that personality into the system.
That's right. Well, and this wouldn't be guest facing so much, but this is.
There are a lot of people here that would argue guest facing.
Yeah, I agree.
Call centers, and by the way, pizza is sort of an interesting thing because that still takes a lot of, probably more phone orders than anybody else, right?
I think AI is going to fail at the guest facing piece because it won't have the empathy that a GM is supposed to have.
So that would be an interesting conversation to have at some point where maybe you'd be sitting there and then we could have somebody who's using like AI voice at the drive-through taking orders, because that is guest facing as well. And then you have the kiosk people, and then you would have the phone. And by the way, if I really thought about it, we'd have somebody sitting here from the hotel industry or the airline industry as well, right? Because we know how that works,
and
right?
We've tried voice AI or phone ordering and stuff like that. Variable success, whether it's Kia AI, Revmo, there's 5 or 6 vendors out there that have approached
and there's about 5 or 6 here.
Yeah, and we haven't
a lot of startups
been entirely successful from the perspective because all of that software costs money, and it all turns out to be an ROI.
Right. Well, let's just take a quick break, and then we'll come back.
Okay.
And we're gonna continue. You're bringing up a lot of ideas and thoughts here, so I've got some questions for you. And by the way, it's fair game. You can certainly ask me a question too. This is a conversation, so we'll be right back. I'm with Chris Demery, who's the Chief Technology Officer of Blaze Pizza, and we're on the Tech Bites podcast. And I'll be right back.
With the rapid expansion of technology in the food and beverage industries, finding the right supplier can become overwhelming and complicated. To simplify this process, the IFBTA created Exchange. Exchange is a powerful search tool where users can easily narrow down their technology search and refine results by application type, geography served, department, and more. Browse resources and learn more about the industry's technology suppliers at exchange.ifbta.org. Now, back to the show.
So welcome back to Tech Bites, and we are here with Chris Demery, the Chief Technology Officer of Blaze Pizza. We're at FS Tech 25 in Orlando, and right before we took the break, we were on the AI discussion. We were talking about the humanization of it and things like that, but we also, for a brief moment, we were talking about like machine learning, which I brought up. So let's just say you and I have been around for a little bit here. Every so often you get these deja vu moments. And, people always come up and they say, oh, I got this like really new technology, right? And you go, well, maybe it was before its time, but that's been out there. Are there some deja vu moments you have like right now of things that you see like that are finally making their way that maybe you saw go back to your NCR days if you want to in the beginning, because there are clearly things that have come out, but all of a sudden maybe it's the technology tools or the public is ready to use it?
Honestly, and unfortunately I was sharing this at lunch as well. I haven't found the gym at this conference yet from new things. And there's a lot of stuff here around whether it's video surveillance, whether it's CDPs, whether it's point of sales. I've seen all of this stuff before. I just haven't seen the new thing that's going to catch my eye that I need. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
You haven't seen the new thing, but is there something that you see here that people are saying is new and you know darn well that it was around before, but it's just sort of made its way? Maybe it's seeing its time?
No, right off the top of my head.
I mean, because you always get these people who tell us we're the first, we have this, we have that. It's like, okay. But you know what? The voice AI stuff, no, the camera, vision AI.
Right.
I saw that 2 years ago, and coincidentally, they were taking video feeds from surveillance cameras, so you didn't have to install more, but they were using it in pizza. And they're using it in Mexico right now. There's a group that's doing it to see if the pepperoni, I forget which chain they're doing it with, but they're taking a look not only at how the pizzas are being made, but at the placement of pepperoni and does it have the right thing in it. But they're using basic camera vision, and they're sitting there saying, you don't have to invest in all new stuff. You already had those cameras, you're doing that. And then they're using it for training and all the other things that are out there. That has always interested me when you come up with some technology that actually already exists, and it's like, let's find a new way of using it.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is I believe restaurants should be focused on speed of service based on what their brand's speed of service should be. So I am looking, and speed of service to us is measured from when an order starts to when an order is delivered to the guest. That's a traditional
start to finish.
You're right, start to finish.
Could be
Starbucks started this years ago.
Right.
Is that they want to know the length of the queue before the order starts, because they could predict if there's 7 people in line, when the 8th person comes in, that person's going to leave. So I've started looking, how do I prepend my start of the order with using vision technology, whether it's cameras or whatever it happens to be, to track when a guest walks in the restaurant until the order actually starts, because I believe that would inform me of should I have ways to skip the line. Because if there's
you are opening up so many cans of worms now.
It's kind of funny because we're doing kiosks and QR code ordering in order to let our guests skip the line. And it turns out if there's no line, there's no reason to skip it. So, which is, I was sitting in a restaurant in Nevada, Reno, Nevada, where we're piloting this. And the gentleman that we're doing it is like, we love the technology, but we don't have a line. And I'm like, but if we could get a line, you'll be able to leverage the technology.
Absolutely.
So what you need, and I don't know of anybody that doesn't want more traffic. I mean, traffic's down everything. Right?
All right, so here's
too many topics.
No. So this would be like, hey, Rob, do you ever have any deja vu moments? And I'd sit there, yeah. So here you go.
Okay.
So Hyperactive Bob was a technology that was used by Zaxby's. It had to be 20 years ago, where they put a camera on the back of it was great for chicken, because chicken has a 15-minute cooking time and a certain amount of holding time. And Zaxby's was doing it. Mike Nettles, another pizza guy. Okay, Mike. He wasn't there at the time, but he's there now. He and I were talking about this. And so they put this camera on that could correlate between the type of vehicle and what they were going to order, and then the length of time so they could queue up and produce chicken in advance. Went out of business, got bought by Acrylex, somehow got in the kiosk business, right? But I see vision going on right now, right? So predictive ordering. Then you had conversational ordering, which was done for a while, which it wasn't really conversation. It was getting orders to the kitchen as you're doing it. But what you're talking about also is somewhat, predictive in there. And then you have other technology, like the Starbucks thing. I thought you were going to say something else about that, because if you're not prepared, there's a big restaurant company who went through this, and they got a lot of press for developing their technology, but their back of the house wasn't made. And if you're not going to add more barista stations, and you're not going to have more, you're going to slow it up, because you're basically getting to the front of the line on ordering. And that's where, by the way, figuring out if people are going to leave, the 8th customer is very important. But at the same time, if you don't couple it with how you're configuring things, and pizzas can be very fast too. So, but it's the same sort of thing. But some of these technologies were tried in the past, and they just didn't make it. Yeah,
I know. When I was at CKE, one of my predecessors bought like 50 camera systems they were going to install in the drive-thrus, and it never got off the ground, because they couldn't tie the hardware to the software to actually operationalize it within Hardee's or Carl's Jr.
Yeah, they were also one of the early people in the drive-thru that was doing voice over IP ordering to central call centers. I remember that one in there. But see, that's also something today. Everybody sit there and say, let's go do, that way, right? So, but they didn't think that way, right? So they, it sort of comes around. That's in there. So, I mean, look, Blaze is not Domino's. But yet you said that Domino's, you still go back to it as the gold standard in technology.
From the perspective of predictability, I believe, and I proved this at Bloomin' Brands as well. Domino's, whether you like their pizzas or not, they're very consistent and predictable from a guest perspective.
Absolutely, and that's why you would go, right?
And so when I talk about speed of service, in the restaurant, our target is 8 to 12 minutes to have your order start to when it's in your hands, so you can eat it, get out. Off premises is different. Your speed of service needs to be targeted at what you told the guest it was going to be, whether it's 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And so Domino's was very good at that, because they had a very regulated process. Their speed of service is different than our speed of service because we're primarily dine-in. We're 70% dine-in.
Right. So what are the metrics that you're looking at on speed? Because look, that term speed of service, especially when applied to drive-through, was a big thing as people were expanding
Yeah, it
their
used to be
menus
like
and
2 or
things.
3 minutes, right?
Yeah, and people would sit there and go, how come McDonald's has 75 items on there, yet their speed of service is faster than anybody else? QSR magazine does a whole thing on speed of service study, right? So what are your metrics for speed of service? How are you defining that?
So what we're defining is without being able to measure it. It used to be 9 minutes because we were a lunch business. You walk in, you start your order. From the time you started your order, you would have your order in 9 minutes. That was the target. That's before the menu became more complex. It's before we added salads and large pizzas and all that kind of stuff. During the pandemic, they lost that whole capability because they went 100% off premises.
Right.
And then now we're back and people are starting to come back into the restaurant. And they've lost the heightened time awareness around, we are a fast casual brand. They still expect their food in 8 to 12 minutes. That's
Because of a benchmarking, it's an industry setting that one. So I get that, right?
Yeah, and so our target is our first target is understanding what is our speed.
Right.
Because if you can't measure it, you can't
And having
manage
people
it,
agree on the measurement.
That's right.
Because if they don't agree on how you got there,
that's right.
That doesn't work.
So we're using a fresh KDS, fresh tech solution to measure speed of service and set the baseline for that restaurant so that then our operators can say, okay, we're at 15 minutes at lunch. We need to do something. We either need to add more people or change what we're doing in order to get it down.
Come in.
Yeah.
To help them do that analysis, right? So,
and that's, by the way, it's an AI-backed system published by Freshton.
Right, but I get that. That's why I'm saying it's sort of behind the scenes. Do they really need to know? Does an operator really need to know that? Not necessarily, but they do need to get the coaching, the counseling, and the data. And over time, they're going to become very expectant that you're going to provide that, right? So you can lead the way. Also, I'm going to guess that your budget is a lot different than some past budgets you may have had for this, right?
It's a lot different.
But yet you can spend better now today and still get the same availability of tools and stuff that in the past you had to spend the fortune for, right? So it was out there, so it was hard to to do.
And when I joined Blaze Pizza 4.5 years ago, we were on a legacy point of sale solution that I couldn't innovate around. My first job was to switch out that point of sale so that I could add other solutions to it in order to change and address the guest experience.
Right. Well, the guest experience is really all it's about. So let's say, you're fast casual dine-in, so the guest experience is very important.
Yes.
So how do you differentiate your guest experience, from your competitors out there? What is that special, not the special sauce, special tomato sauce, I don't know, but the special sauce, right? But that's the different, keeping your culture and making you different as you deploy the technology.
One of our franchisees who is based in Kentucky and Florida, one of our most successful franchisees, it's all around hospitality. So while our guests have changed,
right,
their expectation is still, I want to go to a brand where I feel welcomed and I'm taken care of. So we're following that model and trying to roll that out across Blaze Pizza, because Blaze Pizza used to be walk the line and then you're done. And you just go sit at a table and you're sort of ignored. Unfortunately, that's the result. So we're reinvigorating what we call the hospitality experience. Our COO mentioned it today on main stage. We're investing in labor so that somebody in the lobby greets you and guides you through whatever experience you want, where you want it, how you want it, when you want it.
So I've been tracking some stuff in the retail industry. I find it and the hotel industry. I find it fascinating that like Slice is putting in, Slice, the pizza guys, also have the machines, and they're putting them in Hyatt hotels, basically advertising freshly made pizza because it's, partially
made by a machine.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And, at NRF, we had a pizza bot there last year. Middleby was doing that. So how do you view the future of, let's say, fresh food in vending or new sites? And also, I want to come back to that off-site, off-premise piece that you were talking about, because pizza is not necessarily, other than delivering a whole little boxes of pizza, one of those things you think of as a obviously they deliver, but how do you create a full experience? And so what do you think about the automation of pizza and pizza vending? Or any fresh food vending?
It's sort of fascinating. I don't think the technology is going to move fast enough to be able to. So it's interesting. The questions I ask is, who puts in the fresh dough into the machine that's making it? How many dough balls can your machine hold? And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, we do fresh dough. So are you using frozen dough pucks, or are you using fresh dough? And so all I'm doing is I'm shifting labor. And so from a build your own pizza perspective.
Did you ever go to the Zoom Pizza Factory when they were around?
I've heard of them, yeah.
Yeah, no, I went to that factory, and basically they were doing the dough and everything, all done by robotics behind the scenes, but they were saying not touch, but then it was even loaded into the trucks. Technology before their time.
And so if we put one of these machines in a restaurant to make pizza behind the scenes, you still have to have labor to fill them up. And when I go and talk to the vendors, they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, do you hold 100 dough balls or 50 dough balls or 10 dough balls? And most of the ones I've seen hold about 20.
Yeah, I've got one that does about 97 from France.
Yeah,
that I was looking at. I don't know what the size.
I haven't seen that one. It'd be interesting. So I think there's what you're doing is you're shifting the labor, which is not a bad thing. I just wonder if the quality's there. I haven't seen that yet.
So just out of curiosity, just like the IFBTA is changing its definition of technology, because I just thought about this, because I get people ask me all the time, what does technology mean, right? There's a Food Technology Association, but that's the technology of making food, like plant-based, right? Okay.
I said, Culinary Edge, right?
Yeah. Right. Okay. So like culinary.
We use them.
So as I think about that, though, I said, well, the answer is probably yes, because I'm getting involved in connected kitchens, right? Robotics. And over time, if you're starting to talk about sous vide cooking, or you're talking about all this kind of stuff, I said, I guess we're getting involved in food too. So in your world, has your position evolved in the definition of technology? Is the chief technology officer of the future somebody who's now going to have to know kitchen equipment, food, not just delivery and safety, but all those pieces?
It absolutely does, because I have both an operations and a technology background. I know everything that works in our restaurants, and by the way, it changes by brand. So what worked at Bloomin' Brands or Domino's, it's different at Blaze. And so I mentioned this yesterday on a panel. The first thing I do when I go into a brand is I have to learn the definitions of all the things we take for granted. What's speed of service here? Well, it's different here than it was at CKE or PF Chang's. And so then you have to adopt, and you have to evaluate the technology infrastructure. If you introduce a new pizza oven that cooks pizzas in 30 seconds instead of 3 minutes, does that mean you need to change your speed of service model? It might. And then you have to change all the data that feeds your speed of service.
And then you have the expectation. Boy, can you imagine the point there where customers, 9 minutes is 9 minutes, and they still want 9 minutes. But now you're going faster than 9 minutes? I don't know. You need to change customer expectation too, right? And by the way, if they're dining in with you, that might not be such a good thing. Or else it's an opportunity to sell other things and then cook that piece of it quicker.
The only thing I know is that I can't predict the next change in guest expectations. Because it changed with COVID. No, I don't think anybody can. So as a technologist in my current role, I have to try to future-proof us for the next time you want something different. Where do you want it? I don't know. Do you want it delivered by drone? Do you now trust drones? Right?
Oh,
so we don't want to go down that path,
a whole different discussion. That will be the next discussion we have. We could talk about that. Let me just ask you this as we wrap up. So, technologist, obviously you're enthusiastic about technology. Yeah. I love technology. So on a personal basis, is there some sort of technology that's either coming or out there right now? You got to get your hands on it. You're like, I really need to get that. No. Something getting you excited out there?
It's not. I am, I hate to use I just introduced a very good friend of mine to Google Gemini to do simple tasks, which is, versus Chat GPT. And they were amazed. I think AI has the potential to really revolutionize certain activities. But my CEO said it best. He says, as a person, if you cannot repeatedly implement a task or a process, we're not going to use AI to automate it, because if you have an undefined process, you're talking about a black hole.
You'd end up all there.
You're going to spend $1 million to try to solve a problem you don't know how to solve today, and you probably won't get there.
All right. Well, look, it's been a pleasure having this conversation with you. We're not going to clone you. We're not going to take this and take your voice and take your image and everything. And the next conversation, well, actually, I don't have to show up either. We'll just have the next conversation.
We can have AIs.
The two of us go, I've been screwing around with that idea, by the way, putting two people on a stage that aren't even there, but have enough knowledge that they can actually talk to each other and just do it. I'll sit in the audience and ask questions. I don't know. Something like that. But listen.
That would be fun.
It would be fun to make a point. So then we have virtual customers too, right? So.
You know what? We won't even have to come to FS Tech. We can just attend remotely.
People tried that. They tried to do virtual trade shows.
Yeah, it doesn't
and
work.
that just didn't work out, right?
Because you can't get the connection.
People want to meet up in person.
It's the empathy. That's why I don't think AI will work.
Never's the only time. So, okay. So, listen, it's been a pleasure having Chris Demery, the Chief Technology Officer of Blaze Pizza, with us on Tech Bites. And thank you for joining me in this conversation. And I suspect there's going to be some more conversations on this, because I could see we could have some fun going down the rabbit hole on a number of things. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. This podcast is brought to you by the International Food and Beverage Technology Association. The IFBTA is the industry's voice of food service, hospitality, and retail technology, providing thought leadership as your single, impartial, and go-to resource. The IFBTA offers in-person and online communities to connect with your peers, the exchange, an all-encompassing global technology resource, and an industry-wide professional education and certification program. The bottom line is the IFBTA is your place to gather, learn, and share in conversations like the one we're having today. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Tech Bites, powered by the IFBTA. I'm Rob Grimes, your host, and I look forward to taking our next bite of technology together.